Thank you, Cyrus. Well, I've got to tell you, I was really thrilled to hear this. Many of you might know Cyrus is one of our top MCs, and that's really what he's been doing for many, many years at USB, and he's an absolute master at that. But really great to see you taking your expertise and experience and bringing it to such an exciting topic. So yeah, some really powerful insights there. Are you saying that sport, you're using sport really as an analogy for business, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think sport is also an analogy for life as well. One of the things that we have to remember is that business life is also about the competitive nature of how human beings are.
Right.
And we're always trying to make the best of our lives and trying to make the best of our businesses and make the best decisions. So there are often things that we see and we take for granted, but we don't realize that they are teaching us lessons every single day.
Right.
You know, often, and I know that my wife gets upset when I do this, but I'm sitting in the lounge shouting at this inanimate object that is the television, telling people to do things that they're supposed to know how to do, right? And don't we do that whenever we see politicians on TV? When we see people doing stuff in traffic?
Right.
We always seem to have the right answer.
Right. And there is, it is kind of bizarre, you know, you get guys, it is usually guys, and they're watching their favorite sports team and they say, we won. No, China, you didn't win. They won. You watched. but that's the thing, right? There's the sense that you're on the field. And that's what, I was struck by this similarity in the sense of what you and Rob are doing, because Rob's sharing this historical story, you're sharing stories from sports, and then you get into that story, you become, that character, and that's where you get this transfer of the lesson. But what I find fascinating, from sport is that you do get these greats, or once were greats, and I wonder if sports sometimes, maybe we can't blame sport, but Oscar Pistorius, Lance Armstrong, two greats, and just examples of who were so driven, but also driven beyond ethics.
What you would normally do. And I think this is what's really important. First and foremost, yes, it is a lot of guys who shouting at the screens, but there are a lot of girls too. And I think that sport is that kind of thing in the sense that it brings people together. Some of my greatest sporting heroes also are women, and because it's about how sport interacts with people. Yeah. So in the fuller keynote, I actually talk about people like Oscar Pistorius, about Lance Armstrong, because there are people who also have been leaders in their fields. But then they go just that little bit extra, trying to do something that they shouldn't be doing, only to get an edge. And at what point do we then say, fine, the ethics behind what they're doing is really wrong, and we have to stop supporting that?
Right.
That's what this is all about. It's also about a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily just about the fact that we sit there going, oh, but this Lance Armstrong guy, or in fact, just yesterday at the US Open, Maria Sharapova was in action again, and she's failed drugs test, and it's a question that we need to keep asking.
Sure. And I think what happens is, and this perhaps where this analogy is, sports and business are so much about performance. And we've got Caroline coming a little later talking about how high performance and how that can actually lead to a certain madness. And I'm really excited to hear that. And how yes, sometimes the goal orientation, winning at all costs, can get us to actually compromise our values. And we've seen that in sport, and once again, that's a lesson that we can bring to business.
No, definitely, and leading in the winner's circle in particular is also about success, but it's also about success in the right way. You can be successful in doing all sorts, but I think it's really about trying to teach each other lessons, and also about to grow each other as individuals as well. Because the other thing about it is that although you might be playing in a team sport, or for instance, every company has to have a lot of employees and people in the company itself, but you have to know who you are, what your capabilities are, and also how you fit into a specific scenario.